moving into open session from closed session. So we have 3 items. First item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, the first item reporting out of council closed session is to receive the report and that confidential direction to staff be confirmed.
Someone like to move that? Councillor Kim, Councillor Thompson, comments, questions? Record a vote.
Record vote has been requested for the first item of council reporting out of closed session. Mayor Maracas, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Humphreys hasn't joined the meeting yet. Councillor Gartner, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Councillor Gilliland has also not joined the meeting, neither has Councillor Gallo. Councillor Kim? Councillor Kim?
Yes.
Thank you. And Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Second item.
Second item of council reporting out of closed session is to receive the report and that confidential direction to staff be confirmed.
Someone like to move that? Councillor Thompson, second. Councillor Kim. Record a vote, Mr. Clerk.
Record vote has been requested for the second item of council reporting out of closed session. Councillor Gartner, how do you vote?
I vote no, thank you.
Councillor Kim?
Yes.
Councillor Humphreys, we're just reporting out of closed session. It's the second item.
Yes.
How do you vote? Yes,
Yes.
thank you. Mayor Maracas?
Yes.
And Councillor Gilliland has not joined us. Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
And Councillor Gallo has not joined us either. The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Third item.
Third item reporting out of closed session is to receive the report and that confidential direction to staff be confirmed.
Someone like to move this one? Councillor Kim, second. Councillor Humphreys? Comments, questions? Part of vote?
Record vote has been requested for the third item of council reporting out of closed session. Councillor Thompson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Kim?
Yes.
Councillor Gilliland has not joined us. Councillor Gartner?
Yes.
Mayor Maracas?
Yes.
Councillor Gallo has not joined us. And Councillor Humphreys?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Confirming bylaw. I'd like to move that. Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Thompson, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We will now, Mr. Clerk, it is 7:04. We will call this council meeting to order. Procedural notes, this meeting will be held electronically as per section 19(1) of the town's procedure bylaw number 6228-19 as amended due to the COVID-19 situation. Council, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor Humphrey, seconded by Councillor Kim. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Record a vote for the approval of the agenda this evening. Councillor Humphreys, how do you vote? Councillor Humphreys. Oh, sorry, you're just on mute there, Councillor.
Yes, sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo hasn't joined yet. Councillor Gartner?
Yes.
Councillor Kim?
Yes.
Mayor Maracas?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson?
Counselor Thompson?
Just gone off screen.
Oh, yeah.
And Counselor Gilliland.
Are we just approving the agenda? I'm sorry.
That's correct.
Yes.
Counselor Thompson, we didn't get you.
All right, yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we have no community presentations, delegations. Looks like we have none, Mr. Clerk. Is that correct? Just want to make sure none have come in last minute.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. No delegations.
Thank you. Consent agenda. Anyone have any questions on the consent agenda? On any of the items? If not, I'd ask someone to move, Counselor Counselor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm having trouble pulling up my agenda. I wanted to speak to the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority item.
Okay, so 6-4. So you want me to pull that, or do you just have a question on that?
I have a comment.
Comment? Well, go ahead.
Thank you. I wanted to thank Mr. Waters. I really appreciate, Mr. Waters, I really appreciate you reviewing the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority Region Draft Resolution and your support of the conservation authorities, all of the conservation authorities, but especially our own, in their efforts to address Bill 229 and its changes. And as you say, they have a very important function to protect Ontario's environment, ensure people and property are safe from natural hazards, and to apply watershed-based decisions on development. So I thank you very much for that response to council.
Thank you, Counselor Gardner. Is that all?
That's all.
Thank you. Someone like to move that the consent agenda items 6.1 to 6.4 inclusive be approved? Counselor Kim, Counselor Gardner. Mr. Clerk, a call vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Record a vote for the items on the consent agenda. Counselor Kim,
Yes.
Mayor Maracus,
Yes.
Counselor Thompson,
Yes.
Counselor Humphreys,
Yes.
Counselor Gilliland,
Yes.
Counselor Gardner,
Yes.
and Counselor Gall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So let's move to standing committee reports. Would anyone like to pull any of the items? Start on my screen. Counselor Gallo, did you want anything pulled? No. Counselor Gilliland?
This is for is this for the November 3rd or 17th or?
Standing committee reports, so 7.1s and 7.2s.
Okay, so, so only the 7s?
Yes, all the 7s.
Okay, no.
No? Okay. Counselor Humphreys, do you have anything to pull? No? Counselor Kim? No? Counselor Thompson?
7.2.7, the audio recording of closed session meetings.
Okay.
Just for a vote.
All
It
right.
says
Oh, Counselor Gilliland?
sorry, that says 8.5 on mine. So am I looking at the wrong agenda?
Yes.
So that was, I would like that pulled as well. So thank you. So thank you.
That's the only one? Okay, thank you. Counselor Gardner?
The stable neighborhood 7.1.3.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's all.
Okay. So could I get a motion, Mr. Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, just to clarify, the 7.1.3 was the deferred stable neighborhoods report. I believe what Counselor Gardner was 7.2.3.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. You're absolutely right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so could someone like to move that that the standing committee items remaining minus 7.2.3, 7.2.7 be approved? Counselor Gilliland, second by Counselor Humphreys. I'll call the vote.
Record a vote for all the items not pulled for discussion. Counselor Gardner, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mayor Marakis?
Yes.
Counselor Kim?
Yes.
Counselor Gallo?
Yes.
Counselor Humphreys?
Yes.
Counselor Thompson?
Yes.
And Counselor Gilliland.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Clerk. Consideration of items requiring discussion, 7.2.3, stable neighborhood policy review, urban design guidelines. Counselor Gardner, you pulled this one. Did you want to move the recommendation?
No, I won't do that. Thank you.
Would someone like to move the recommendation? I'll read it out for everyone, that the report number PDS 20-068 be received. 2, that the revised urban design guidelines for stable neighborhoods as attached to this report be approved. And 3, that staff present a semi-annual report to council on minor variance application activity within town's 4 stable neighborhood study areas. Someone like to move that recommendation? Councilor Thompson, second. Councilor Kim, thank you. Councilor Gardner, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was asked last week, I was speaking of the residents requesting that a report, semi-annual report, would be provided to council on things that were not property development that was not in keeping with some of the stable neighborhood design guidelines. I was kind of doing a blanket request last week, but I have some more specifics this time through to council, to Mr. Waters. The main concerns of the residents are with respect to privacy and streetscape. So the first one would be in section 3.1 on page 259. Number 5, ensure a measure of privacy between neighbors by providing sufficient distance between the back wall of the house and the rear of the property. That would be related to, the other thing that would relate to that would be number 6, address rear yard privacy and sunlight issues when extending a home towards the rear property line. And part A of 6 is minimizing extensions beyond the adjacent dwelling's rear wall. B, keeping windows to a minimum on side elevations where the rear wall of the renovated new building extends beyond the adjacent dwelling's wall. And also minimizing the location of second floor balconies on rear side elevations. So those are guidelines that would all speak to privacy. And with respect to the look of the dwelling, so it fits in more with the neighborhood, one of the recommendations was reflect the front setback of adjacent dwellings when substantially different to ensure the new building's dwelling setback is equal. Well, I don't know, but just to try and make sure that the setbacks are in keeping with what is on the street. And then going to section Number 30, design guidelines for landscape treatment. Number 30, protect mature trees and encourage planting of new trees to enhance the urban canopy, but especially the protection of mature trees. Number 32 is encourage grass areas to cover most of the front yards. And 33, minimize hard surfacing landscape, pavement in front yards. Some of the new homes that have been built to date pretty much have pavement over the entire front area. So not only does that not look in keeping with what's there, it's also environmentally not good because the water doesn't drain off those hard surfaces very well. And the last one, section 3.3, it's all of them and they're all kind of the same. Consider keeping entry steps to a maximum of 3. Encourage low profile entrance features close to the ground where grading permits, and design entrances to be consistent with the height in relationship to the street and adjacent dwellings. I think that all could be rolled into one by the maximum of 3 steps, entry steps. So I don't think that's too onerous. And they do speak to the main concerns of privacy and streetscape. So the residents would appreciate council's agreement to those. It sounds like quite a lot, but actually when you look at them in the design guidelines, it's pretty condensed.
So Council, just so I'm clear, agreement to what? To do what?
These sections that I've mentioned from the design guidelines.
Okay, I'm not.
So I could say what they are again. Section 3.
What they are again. I think we got the gist of what they were, but what is it that you want to do with them?
The reporting, the residents have requested reporting when consistency with the design guidelines is not adhered to by the developer.
So, okay, so you want staff to report, and it's your time, so we'll get you for a second time, but so we can get clarity. Okay. So you want the report to come back specifically with anything that does not basically has gone against what you've described, all those sections and all those. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Yes. Shall I say specifically what they are? Shall I wait for my next turn?
Well, no, I think we got it all, but we can, if I'll ask for that amendment, that's what you're asking for, and I'll see if there's a seconder.
So it would be for 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3.
Okay.
Which is not a lot considering the extent of the guidelines that are recommended by staff.
Is there a seconder to that amendment? Councilor Gilliland? Anyone like to speak to the amendment? No? Oh, Councilor Gallo, go ahead.
Sorry, but it's very unclear what I'm voting for. I just simply don't know.
And I'm trying, Councilor. I'm trying. I agree. But so, Councilor, you want those, Mr. Clerk? Maybe you can clarify it for all of us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I think we have taken a stab at it. We'll put it up on screen, and the councilor can advise if we have it correct.
Great.
Semi-annual report include instances where staff approved variances regarding front and side yard setbacks, privacy, and streetscapes are not consistent with the stable neighborhood design guidelines. Is that correct, Councilor Gardner?
Well, it is correct, but there's, I don't know, 100 pages or more in the design guidelines, perhaps. So I'm just pulling, the residents would like me to pull these 3 sections, which are 3.1, patterning of lots, 3.2, streetscapes, and 3.3, architectural forms and styles. And of those, there are certain sections for the landscape treatment just that section. And the front yard setbacks, which speaks to 3.2, which speaks to privacy. And 3.1, number 5, and number 6. Number 6 has A, B, and C, not number G.
Mr. Clerk, did you get all that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think it might be best if we just put the sections up, just the 3.1 to 3.3, rather than describing them as we have. And so
Okay.
the motion would be that the semi-annual report include instances where staff approved variances regarding sections 3.1 to 3.3 of the stable neighborhood design guidelines. And just to point out to council, I think this would also, it would count for all the study areas in the guidelines, not just a particular one.
Yeah. Is that good, Councilor Gardner?
That would be great, thank you. And again, they speak to privacy and streetscape, and I think that's a fair ask.
Okay, Councilor Gillen, you okay with that? The way they're going to word it right now? Is that fine? You're a seconder? Okay. Any comments or questions? Councilor Gallo, did you want to, you had the floor.
Yeah, thank you. I apologize, but I'm still unclear what we're trying to do here. That the semi-annual report, including instances where staff approved variances regarding section 3.1, 3.3 are not consistent with the stable neighborhoods design. So what are we changing it to, or what are we fixing? Or I don't follow.
I think ultimately what Councilor Gardner is asking for is that if a site plan gets approved that does not 100% adhere to one of the guidelines within those sections, that staff need to come back under that semi-annual report that we've asked them to come back with those instances as well. Beyond, like, these aren't official variances, right? We're just asking them to come back. The original motion is just for variances as per Committee of Adjustment variances. This one's going beyond that and saying anything that does not basically adhere to the guidelines in these sections would also be brought back and explained to us. I think that's the essence of what.
I guess through you to Mr. Waters, do we have a sense of, I know we already kind of went through this, but what type of volume could we anticipate in this report?
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have about a dozen or so of these site plans through the building season. So it really depends. I mean, the guidelines are very fluid. They are not intended to be policy. The zoning bylaw is the enforcement mechanism. The guidelines are intended to be a point for discussion, and they vary. I mean, it depends on how great a variance are we talking about. Are we talking about a slight variance, a major variance? There are probably other aspects of the urban design guidelines that are just as important as these. These get reported on as well. So it seems like it'll be very onerous to do this, very time consuming.
Councilor?
And I'm always happy to provide the residents with more information. I just fail to see the value they would get by doing this. If there is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Waters, if there is a minor variance, it will go to the Committee of Adjustment. Whoever in the neighborhood will be advised, and that's the time when residents would weigh in on the particular application. Is that accurate?
Waters?
Through Mr. Mayor, that is correct, Councillor.
Councilor?
So I guess through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Gardner, what are the residents looking for in terms of an outcome to this?
I think thank you, Councillor Gallo. I think this is for information to see would see what guidelines aren't being followed. I know they're guidelines, but, and I believe that staff should be keeping a record of what they recommend to developers that the developers aren't interested in following. And so it just says, we believe that council should be made aware of all infill building applications that are approved that do not comply with specific recommendations in the guidelines. And so they would like to know, with respect to the guidelines on privacy and streetscape, how willing developers are to follow these guidelines.
Gal?
I mean, it's from information, but I think this is information that council should know and the residents want to have. So I don't see that these 3 sections should be particularly onerous to report on.
Councillor Gallo? Councillor Gallo?
Done.
You know? Okay, thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you.
To the amendment?
To the amendment, you know, a couple things. One, I mean, Councillor Gardner just mentioned that, you know, they should comply with these guidelines. In my perspective, you know, the zoning bylaw is there for compliance. It is specific what needs to be done, and that's what the developer or applicant needs to comply with. The guidelines are a tool. It is meant to be able to shape the design, but there is a degree of flexibility in it. If we want compliance in these areas, then let's reopen the zoning bylaw and put it back in the zoning bylaw and go down that road. The guidelines are just a tool. And what Councillor Gardner refers to in all of those sections are subjective terms, and they are open for interpretation. For example, in the first one, she talked about the setback being a sufficient distance. So perhaps Councillor Gardner can define what is a sufficient distance in feet.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. And I can't, but when staff is recommending to a developer what they think would be appropriate, and they will be doing that in each of the different planning applications, and the developer thinks it's not appropriate, I'd like to know that.
But I
I
think
mean, what's working in the guidelines and what isn't? And I'm just going from what staff has written with respect to the guidelines. That
think
one
that's
is a tricky one. I mean, the other one about a couple of steps and, you know, trees, etc., side windows and balconies, that's very specific.
yeah, I'll use another example. You said keeping windows to a minimum. What exactly is the minimum? Is it 1, 2, or 3?
Well, perhaps staff has written this so they will know what they consider to be a minimum.
But again, so that reinforces my point that I'm trying to make, that these terms are all subjective. We're asking staff to interpret them and then report out. And the public, the residents, members of council, may not agree with these subjective terms. Staff may feel that 3 is perfectly adequate in terms of keeping windows to a minimum, or 4 feet is sufficient distance, or whatever that number is. And then it becomes a debate amongst council or amongst the residents about the terminology in it. The design guidelines are not meant for that kind of compliance. They are just meant to shape it. And that's why producing this report would be so onerous, because then it then becomes a question of debating the subjective determination of what each term means and whether it was correct or incorrect. I don't want to go down that road at all. I think that we empower our staff to make these decisions. We're agreeing on the policy. The policy is keep windows to a minimum, sufficient distance. Let staff interpret what the guidelines are to be able to meet those standards we talk about in terms of, you know, ensuring that whatever gets built there is suitable and compatible with the neighborhood. And so I'm not in support of this amendment. I'm supportive of the original recommendation, which is a semi-annual report to council on minor variance activity. And that's it.
Councillor Kim? To the amendment, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I recall 2-3 years ago when we were having this initial discussion on stable neighborhoods, and it lasted, multiple years. We concluded that we would have, something related to architectural controls or something of that verbiage, but then that was too firm, and it'd be like having, multiple bylaws within the design controls. And so we decided that we would have architectural design guidelines. And I recall that the architect or designer said that, what makes neighborhoods of great quality is of the eclecticness of the structures. And so, and because of that, we came to the conclusion, we voted on to have these design guidelines, so we can have that eclecticness, we can have that subjectivity, and have each homeowner or architect, contractor design the home that they think would be complementary and be within the guidelines that that staff would have some control over. I think by Councillor Gardner putting in the subjective criteria, I think we're going back in a circle now, where we want something closer to a bylaw than something as opposed to a tool or architectural guidelines. It's now becoming a control. And so I'm not interested in having a cyclical argument going back to we're getting into these little details, and I don't want staff to get into these details and have to report on them, because that's not the purpose of these guidelines. I like to keep it high level, and even if we went to that level of detail, what are we going to do with that information? I suspect that we're going to try to create bylaws out of that, and then we go back to square one where we started 2-3 years ago. So for those reasons, as well intended as the amendment is, I cannot support that.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland, to the amendment, please.
Thank you very much. I mean, Councillor Gardner, I love where you're going, in the sense that, we want to keep an eye on this. And we did talk about this before with, trying to really narrow down, like, what is it that is really important in these urban design guides that they really want to have that reporting. I understand what the residents are wanting, and they want to be kind of kept on top of some of the things that are going on or might sway, but it's such a subjective topic. I just feel like if they came with their top 2 or top 3 concrete things that were the most important things that would want to be relevant, maybe that's something to have a conversation. But it's almost the entire urban design guidelines that's being asked here. It's so subjective, and there's so many topics. I would think it would be a very onerous thing for our staff to be reporting back on. I love the fact we're doing the minor variances, but again, if it was narrowed down to something specific, that was, if I were to pick, if I was residents, this is the most important thing I'd really like to know. That's kind of what I was hoping to come back with today. We're between a rock and a hard place with some subjective opinions, but it's not really going to do us any service if, to other council members' points, it's like what you think is too much is not enough for others, and we really don't have that guideline. So I can't support this amendment with the language that's being presented on such a broad scape. If it was narrowed down to just a couple things that were the most important, I'd consider it. But at the way it's written right now, it's too broad.
Thank you. Councillor Humphreys, are you back? Got your hand up? No? Okay. Any other comments or questions to the amendment? Councillor Gardner, second time.
The couple of things that are most important to the residents are privacy and the streetscape. And it is basically one section in the design guidelines. When a developer comes to staff staff will be working with the developer. Staff will recommend which of these guidelines they think are appropriate. If they're followed, fine. If they're not, which ones weren't followed? To me, I understand where council is going, but I think this is also getting too complicated. There's sections to do with privacy and streetscape. Staff will be making recommendations to the developers. Are the developers following those recommendations? It's simple. And I think staff should be making notes on all of this as well. So it's just pulling together some facts. I doubt that there'll be that many developments in the space of 6 months that require reporting on. I can't make it any simpler. And I think that council's making it too complicated. It's a small section. It sounds like a lot, but it's really, some of it's pretty much the same. Anyway, this is what the residents in Regency Acres are asking. If council finds that that's, they can't go along with that, then that's council's will. I could only try and represent the residents.
Thank you, Councillor. I think we all are representing the residents.
Well, they just want to anyway, we'll leave it. I'll leave it.
Absolutely. I'll ask Councillor Humphreys just to see if she's back because she just, the hand's still up. Councillor Humphreys, are you there? Do you want to speak to the amendment? No. Okay. There's no other comments. Councillor Gillen? Second.
Thank you. Just a quick comment on the streetscapes, and you mentioned a 3.2 and complicating it. I mean, look, I'm here for the residents too, and I want to listen, and I certainly want to support the idea of reporting back. It doesn't stop the residents from also, observing and inquiring with planning as much as they want. I'm not saying it's, that they shouldn't, have this information available, but the information is available whenever they want it. You did mention streetscapes, which encompasses 3.2, and it's not just, it isn't simple. There is so much. There's front setbacks, there's front yards, side yards, garage, building height, scale, driveway width, location, landscape. There is a lot in there. So I don't want to come off saying that there isn't a lot, because it is a lot to consider. And so that's why, for me, I'm really just asking to narrow it down on what are those important things within that you would really want to have staff come back and report on. And I would be happy to support something that was a little bit narrowed down. But to me, with what's being requested, it's so generalized. It's almost the entire urban design guideline. So I just kind of wanted to, just kind of emphasize that I'm definitely supporting, I want to support the residents as much as possible, but let's just meet in the middle and let's pick a few things that we feel are the most important. And I'm happy to support that.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Councillor, you already spoke twice. Call the vote. Mr. Clerk.
Our vote for the amendment to the Stable Neighborhoods Report. Councillor Humphreys, I don't believe is with us at the moment.
No.
Okay. Councillor Kim, how do you vote?
No.
Councillor Thompson?
No.
Councillor Gartner?
Yes.
Councillor Gallo?
No.
Councillor Gilliland?
No.
And Mayor Marakis?
No.
Motion's defeated.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Back to the main motion. Any other speakers to the main motion? Seeing none. Call the vote, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Record vote for the main motion for the Stable Neighborhoods Report. Councillor Thompson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Gallo?
Is it me?
Yes.
Yes.
Councillor Kim?
Yes.
Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Councillor Gartner?
No.
Councillor Humphries? Still not with us. And Mayor Maracus?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Council will move to 7.2.7, audio recordings of closed session meetings. Councillor Thompson, you pulled that one. I'm just going to read it just for the public. So the report number CS 20-022 be received. 2, that beginning with the first closed session meeting of 2021, staff audio record all closed session meetings. 3, that access to the recordings be restricted to the town clerk, chief administrative officer, town solicitor, and the town's closed session meeting investigator. And 4, that a bylaw be enacted at a future council meeting to classify the recordings as permanent in the town's record retention and classification bylaw. Would you like to move that, Councillor Thompson?
Yes, please.
Seconder? Councillor Kim, thank you. Comments, questions on this? Councillor Thompson? Do you want to?
I've spoken enough about it. I just put it on I pulled it so that we can vote on it individually.
Okay. Councillor Gardner, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I voted for this the last time it came to council. In the last council term, I'm completely in favor.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions before I call the vote? Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you. And I know I spoke about this last time, and oh, my screen just moved. And, I still would prefer to vote separately on item 4. I do have concerns with the permanency, and it's not that I don't feel that I'm going to say what I don't believe in. I don't think anything is very intentional. It just with this cancel culture, which we really don't understand. The ramifications could be, 20, 30 years from now, could be a completely different context or interpretation that was non-intentional. I think we're all here for the right reasons and speak from the heart. And, I would really not want to put people in a position, or the town in a position, if something was to be misinterpreted in a way that was, construed as something different 20, 30 years from now. I did speak to staff. It's a very, very, very rare that we go back beyond, 10 years to have to read minutes to address something within a court proceeding. We do have minutes. Minutes are there for a reason, and we do take good minutes, and the minutes do reflect that. So it's even more rare that we really need to have that conversation that would be any different than what would be in the set of minutes. So for me, I think that, if we had set a time of even 15 years, I think that to me would be more, appropriate. And that, I know that not everybody agrees with that, but I would like to vote separately on item 4.
That's fine. Any other comments or questions? So I will, Mr. Clerk, I'll call numbers 1 through 3.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Record a vote for the audio recordings of closed sessions report items or clauses 1 through 3. Councillor Gardner, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Kim?
Yes.
Councillor Humphries? Not available at the moment. Mayor Maracus?
Yes.
Councillor Gilliland?
Sorry, did you say 1 through 4 or 1 through 3?
1 through 3. I apologize if I said 1 through 4.
Okay, 1 through 3. Yes, I just don't see the resolution up as well. Not on the screen.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
And Councillor Gallo?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I'll call the vote for number 4.
Record a vote for the 4th clause in the audio recordings of closed session report. Councillor Thompson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Kim?
Yes.
Councillor Gilliland?
No.
Councillor Gardner?
Yes.
Mayor Maracus?
Yes.
Councillor Gallo?
Yes.
And Councillor Humphries? Don't believe has returned. The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Council, we have no motions. Regional report. Someone like to move that the York Regional Council highlights of October 22nd, 2020 be received for information? Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Kim. Any comments or questions on the regional report? Mr. Clerk, call a vote. Oh, Councillor Thompson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Marakis. I did have a question with regards to the report. I saw that once again, the question of voting for the regional chair came up. This was a topic in the last term. And so would you share with council how you voted on that issue?
I'll throw it out. How do you think I voted? No,
I hope you would vote the same way you voted 4 years ago or 3 years ago.
Absolutely. I believe that the regional chair should be an elected position, and I voted in favor of having it become an elected position. It's unfortunate that it didn't happen that way. I believe, and I'd have to look back at the vote, but I believe only 5 people voted in favor of electing the chair. Thank
you. And I bring it up, Councillor Gilliland may not know, but the item was placed before Aurora Council last term, and Aurora Council voted. A majority of us voted that it should be an elected position. However, it again didn't carry at the region, and so I just wanted to confirm that direction. Thank you.
Councillor, we'll see if the province decides to put it in place for the next election on their own. So any other questions, comments on the report? Mr. Clerk, call a vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Record vote for the regional report on this evening's agenda. Councillor Humphreys, not available. Councillor Gallo?
Yes.
Councillor Gardner?
Yes.
Councillor Kim?
Yes.
Mayor Marakis?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
And Councillor Gilliland.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Clerk, new business? Go around the room. Councillor Gilliland.
Could you just skip me for coming back around?
Councillor Thompson. New business? No. Councillor Gallo, new business?
Quick question to you or the CAO, whether or not any decisions have been made or funds spent as a result of COVID, and any emergency decisions that have been made?
Oh. Mr. CAO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure how the question is if any decisions have been made in respect to COVID. There's been lots of decisions made. We've been constantly altering our plans and our policies according to the orders that sort of come every week or two. So I'm not sure if there's a specific area that you're referring to, or I'm not aware of any emergency spends other than the work we've done to put barriers up and so on, but that was done months ago. So in the not too distant, in the recent past, there hasn't been any particular expense related to COVID. It's more about operational decisions and limiting the number of people in our facilities and keeping them apart and so on.
Councillor.
Thank you. Just anything outside of what council would already have been aware of. That's all I was looking for.
To Mr. Mayor, no, I don't believe there's anything that most the decisions we've made have been operational in nature.
Thanks.
Councillor Kim, new business?
Yes, a couple of items. Number one, we received sad news recently about the passing of Ron Wallace, and I'm wondering whether staff is considering some kind of street naming or some kind of memorial or something special to remember Mr. Wallace by. I'm just wondering whether that requires a counselor. I didn't know him personally, but I know many of you knew him very well. So I'm just asking the question whether it requires a motion from somebody or whether staff is already thinking about doing something for Mr. Wallace and his memory.
Mr. Sale?
To Mr. Mayor, that sort of direction would have to come directly from council. The only action taken by staff is we had all the flags lowered on our municipal facilities to half-mast until after the funeral.
Councillor?
Yeah, thank you. And secondly, through to Mr. Downey, I think by and large with the recent snowfall, I've heard mostly positive things from residents. However, you know, we go through this every year with the sidewalk plow and it's digging up the sod. And I know having walked or ran through my neighborhood, you know, big pieces, talking 3-4 foot chunks off the corners. And I'm just wondering, I just want to confirm, the width of the plows are no wider than the sidewalk, correct? Because I know on my street, on the straightaways, it's straight, but then when it cuts through the corner, it just takes a big chunk of someone's lawn, mine included. And so I just want to know whether the plows are the same width as the sidewalk and it's just really just poor driving habits of the driver, or what the cause of that might be.
Mr. Downey?
So through you, Mr. Mayor. So thank you for this opportunity to talk about it. The first snowfall is always a challenge. So this year with the sidewalk snowplow, we had a lot of concern with regards to this event, and operator error is our issue. I can tell you that we had some very frank discussions with our contractor today with regards to their performance, and we have asked them to make some changes with regards to the operators. We are always concerned prior to the ground getting frozen that we were going to have some sod damage, but we have attributed this to operator error, not the fact that the equipment was too wide for the sidewalk.
Councillor?
That's it. Thank you for responding to those many requests, Mr. Downey.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. New business?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was also sorry to hear of the passing of Mr. Wallace after a long and debilitating illness. He was my first and most steadfast supporter of Hotspot, and he even campaigned for me for my first council term, and I was very embarrassed because I came in 5 votes ahead of him. You know, I know we'll find an appropriate way to honor his memory. He did a lot of things for the town. He loved this town. With respect, I want to congratulate Rob Baldwin. He is the new CAO of Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority. And also a little bit of good news for the residents in Tamarack Park. The region has opened up a path through the park. We're not able to, they're not able to really use the park. So I think the residents in the area have asked a very valid question. Are we going to be plowing that path and picking up the garbage in that area?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we don't plow the pathway into Tamarack Park, so the answer to that is no. Garbage, as our service level has indicated, is once a week within our parks, and so we will be monitoring that.
Thank you. Well, that park has been off limits for so long and will continue to be for many months. So anything we can do to help the residents, garbage is, I guess that's what we're going to do. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Humphreys, are you there? You have any new business? No. Councillor Gilliland, go ahead.
I'll save it for next week. That's fine. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm just going to touch on also on the passing of Ron Wallace. I think everyone affectionately knew him as Mr. Aurora. It truly is a profound loss for our community. He did so much. He was a great community leader. We have our paper, the Aurora, today because of him. And, but beyond that, he really did so much for our community. He loved Aurora. And I know Councillor Humphreys likes to point this out. He named his daughter Aurora. And that's how he loved Aurora. And so, he will truly be missed, and our condolences to the family and friends. So leave it on that note, Council. With the bylaws, can I get a motion to approve the bylaws? Councilor Kim, seconded by Councilor Thompson. Any comments or questions on the bylaws? Mr. Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Record a vote for the bylaws on this evening's agenda. Councillor Kim, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Marakis?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Councillor Humphreys is absent. Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Councillor Gardner?
Yes.
And Councillor Gallo.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Clerk, confirming bylaw. Someone like to move that? Councillor Thompson, second. Councillor Kim, clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Record a vote for the confirming bylaw. Councillor Gardner, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Marakis?
Yes.
Councillor Kim?
Yes.
Councillor Gallo?
Yes.
Councillor Humphreys is absent. Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
And Councillor Gilliland.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Clerk, motion to adjourn. Moved by, am I frozen? Say if you move it.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Kim. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Everyone, have a great week. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.